What would you do if the very people paid to protect you at work turned into the ones trying to destroy you? Maria Romero never expected the fight of her life to begin inside a boardroom lined with polished oak tables and glass windows overlooking the city. She was sharp, brilliant, and respected in her field. But when HR tried to pull a stunt that would have humiliated her, Maria didn't just push back. She rewrote the rules of the entire department. This isn't just a story about one woman's fight against office politics. It's a lesson in dignity, power, and the shocking consequences of underestimating the wrong person. By the end, you'll see how a single act of courage can shut down an entire system built on arrogance. But before we get to the moment where Maria turned the tables so hard that the whole department collapsed, let's rewind to where it all began. Maria Romero had been with Sapphire Consulting, a mid-sized but competitive firm, for nearly 8 years. She wasn't just another employee. She was the woman who made things run. When a client crisis hit, Maria was the one who solved it. When new hires floundered, she trained them. She had built her reputation as the quiet backbone of the company. But in corporate America, competence is often seen as a threat. Maria's manager, a man named Greg Stanton, noticed that his team often turned to her instead of him. Greg loved the title of Director of Operations, but hated the fact that when push came to shove, Maria's word carried more weight in the office than his. And Greg wasn't alone. HR, led by Janice Holloway, had long resented Maria's independence. She wasn't the type to smile and nod when nonsense policies were pushed down. She spoke up, always respectfully but always firmly. And for HR, that was enough to put her on their watch list. Still, Maria never thought they'd try something as blatant as what happened that Monday morning. Maria was sipping her coffee at her desk when she got the calendar notification. Mandatory HR meeting 9 a.m. Conference room 4. Her stomach tightened. She hadn't done anything wrong. But in that company, a surprise meeting with HR was never good news. When she walked in, Greg was already sitting there, his arms crossed and his smirk plastered on like a badge of honor. Next to him sat Janice, flipping through a thin folder. "Maria," Janice began, her voice laced with rehearsed concern. "We've been reviewing the structure of this department. After careful consideration, we've decided to adjust some roles to better reflect the needs of the business." Maria stayed silent, waiting. Greg leaned forward, his tone dripping with false sympathy. "Long story short, we think it's best if you step down from your current responsibilities. We're moving you into a more support-focused role." Maria blinked. A support-focused role? That was corporate code for demotion. She finally spoke. "So, let me get this straight. After 8 years of carrying this department, you're telling me my role is being reduced." Janice gave a tight smile. "It's not personal, Maria. It's just restructuring." Maria wanted to laugh. Not personal. Everything about this was personal. She had seen mediocre men promoted above her, incompetent managers protected, and now they were trying to shrink her voice, her influence, her power. But what they didn't know was that Maria wasn't the type to shrink. Instead of arguing, Maria leaned back in her chair and simply said, "Okay, then I'll need that in writing." Janice frowned. "Excuse me? I want a formal letter, detailed, with clear reasoning, signed by both HR and upper management. Otherwise, this isn't a legitimate decision. It's harassment." Greg shifted uncomfortably, not expecting resistance. Maria wasn't done. "And one more thing. You should know I've documented every major project I've led here. Every client win, every cost-saving initiative, every time I had to step in to clean up someone else's mess. If this is about performance, let's put it all on the table." The room went silent. Janice cleared her throat, but before she could speak, Maria added, "Also, if this meeting continues without my legal counsel present, I'll consider it a violation of employee rights. Would you like me to call my lawyer now, or later?" For the first time, Greg's smirk faltered. And that was only the beginning. What happened next would not only expose the cracks in Sapphire Consulting's leadership, but lead to Maria doing something no one in that building had ever dared. She shut the whole department down. The room was heavy with silence. Janice's carefully rehearsed HR speech had crumbled under Maria's calm but razor-sharp words. Greg, who had been so smug minutes earlier, shifted in his chair, avoiding her gaze. Maria sat still, her hands folded neatly on the table, her face unreadable. But inside, her thoughts were clear. If they thought I was going to quietly accept this, they picked the wrong woman. "Maria," Janice finally said, trying to regain her composure. "There's no need to escalate. This is just an adjustment." Maria's lips curved into the faintest of smiles. "Adjustment? Let's call it what it is. A demotion. And unless you can justify it with documented performance issues, then this entire conversation is not just unprofessional. It's unlawful." Greg scoffed. "Oh, come on, Maria. Don't make this bigger than it is. Everyone knows you're strong-willed. But this department needs team players, not lone wolves." There it was, the dagger hidden in flattery. Strong-willed, not a team player. The coded language women of color in corporate spaces knew all too well. Maria leaned forward, her voice dropping low, each word sharp enough to cut glass. "You want to talk about team players? Who was the one who salvaged the Westbridge account when you almost lost it, Greg? Who trained half the new hires you couldn't be bothered to mentor? Who pulled the numbers that got us the green tech contract last quarter?" Greg's face flushed crimson, but Maria didn't stop. "And as for being a lone wolf, do you want me to pull up the emails from clients who specifically requested me on projects because they couldn't get a straight answer from you?" Janice tried to intervene, but Maria raised a hand. "No, let me finish, because you both need to hear this. You've mistaken my silence, my patience, and my professionalism for weakness. But today," she paused, her voice steady, unshaking, "you'll find out what happens when I stop being silent." Maria left the meeting that morning with her head high, but she wasn't naive. She knew Greg and Janice weren't just going to back down. They would regroup, plot, and come at her harder. So Maria did something bold. She went straight to her office, opened her laptop, and began compiling a file, a dossier of sorts. Every project she led, every dollar she saved the company, every glowing email from clients, every HR complaint she had filed that conveniently went missing. By lunchtime, she had enough material to not only defend herself but to bring down Greg, Janice, and the entire HR department if she chose. But Maria wasn't finished. She had one more card to play. She sent a short email to the vice president of operations, a man named Daniel Pierce, who rarely involved himself in office politics. The subject line read, "Urgent, HR misconduct and department risk." Within an hour, Daniel responded, "Maria, let's meet tomorrow. Do not take any further action until then." That night, Maria lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The easy thing to do would be to back down, keep her head down, and protect her paycheck. But something inside her had snapped. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about the young women she'd mentored, the ones who looked up to her. It was about every snide comment, every door closed in her face, every promotion handed to someone less qualified. Tomorrow wasn't going to be another ordinary day at Sapphire Consulting. It was going to be the day she stopped playing their game and made them play hers. The next morning, Maria walked into Sapphire Consulting's glass tower like she owned the place. Dressed in a crisp navy suit, hair pinned back, and eyes sharp with resolve, she carried a leather folder tucked under her arm, the evidence that could unravel an entire department. She didn't stop at her cubicle. She didn't even acknowledge Greg's smug smirk when he spotted her in the hallway. She went straight to the top floor to Daniel Pierce's office. Daniel, the VP of Operations, stood as she entered, gesturing toward the chair across from his massive oak desk. "Maria, thank you for coming. Let's get right to it." Maria set the folder down, opened it, and slid the first document across. "Performance reviews, mine. All marked, exceeds expectations. Every year since I started." Another page. "Project wins. Accounts that should have been lost, saved under my leadership." Another. "Client testimonials, all praising my work ethic and delivery." And finally, emails. Correspondence between me and HR. Documented complaints about Greg's conduct. Every single one lost or dismissed without follow-up. Daniel leaned back, his jaw tightening as he flipped through the papers. "Maria, this is serious." "It is," she replied evenly. "Greg and HR tried to force a demotion with no basis. They've obstructed complaints. They've retaliated. And if it happened to me, I can assure you I'm not the only one." The office door opened suddenly. Greg barged in, his face red. "Daniel, I need a word about." He stopped cold when he saw Maria sitting there, her folder open on the desk. "What the hell is this?" he demanded. Maria turned slowly in her chair, her voice calm but cutting. "This is me refusing to be bullied. This is me showing receipts." Greg's laugh was brittle. "Come on, Daniel, you're not seriously entertaining this. She's just bitter she didn't get." "Enough," Daniel snapped, his voice sharper than Maria had ever heard it. He turned to Maria. "Continue." Greg froze. His usual arrogance was crumbling. Maria pulled out her final card. "Flash drive. This contains copies of every piece of evidence, in case anything mysteriously disappears. And if this doesn't get addressed, I'll have no choice but to take it to the EOC and the press." The silence in the room was deafening. Greg's mouth opened, then closed. He looked at Daniel, panic flickering in his eyes. Daniel placed the folder down carefully. "Maria, thank you. Leave this with me. I'll be taking immediate action. Greg, Janice, and the HR team will be under formal investigation effective today." Greg sputtered. "What? You can't." "I can." Daniel cut him off coldly. "And I will. Get out of my office." For the first time, Greg looked small. He turned and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Maria sat in stunned silence, her heart pounding but her face serene. Daniel gave her a steady look. "You did the right thing. HR was supposed to protect employees, not shield managers. Thank you for bringing this forward. We'll handle the fallout." Maria nodded, finally allowing herself a small smile. "I wasn't going to let them bury me. Not this time." As she left the office, employees whispered in the hallways. Greg's red face had been seen, his angry footsteps heard. Word spread fast. And by the end of the week, Sapphire Consulting's HR department was temporarily shut down, pending restructuring. The woman they tried to silence had done the unthinkable. She didn't just save herself. She exposed the rot, and she forced the company to start over. The fallout was immediate. Within days, Greg's corner office sat empty, his nameplate removed, his reputation, once untouchable, crumbled in whispers through the halls. HR's once feared director, Janice, resigned quietly under the weight of the investigation. Sapphire Consulting had to admit something ugly. Their house was not in order. For weeks, Daniel Pierce led an overhaul. External investigators combed through files, interviewed employees, and exposed years of ignored complaints. HR wasn't a safe department anymore, it was under the microscope. But through it all, Maria kept her head high. She didn't gloat. She didn't brag. She showed up every day, did her work, and let the truth speak louder than she ever could. By spring, Sapphire had a new HR director, an external hire known for ethics and employee advocacy. A new reporting system was introduced where complaints were logged directly to a third-party database, making it impossible to lose them. Anonymous hotlines were set up. Mandatory bias and ethics training rolled out. And quietly, almost reluctantly, Maria was offered something she never asked for but fully deserved: a promotion. Not to appease her, not to silence her, but because her record demanded it. When the announcement was made, Maria's team clapped so loudly that the sound echoed down the hall. Even employees she barely knew stopped her in the cafeteria to say thank you. "You spoke up for all of us," one young woman whispered, tears in her eyes. "You gave us courage." One evening, as Maria locked up her office, she paused by the window overlooking Atlanta's skyline. The city lights blinked back at her, like little reminders of the promises she'd made when she first stepped off that bus years ago. She had told herself back then, "No one will take my dignity. No one will break me," and she had kept that promise. Maria's story wasn't just about a demotion that never happened. It was about power and what happens when you refuse to give yours away. It was about reminding people that silence protects the abuser, never the abused. And maybe most importantly, it was proof that one voice, steady and unshaken, can unravel an entire system built on intimidation. If you'd been in that office the day Maria slid her folder across the table, you would have seen something unforgettable. A woman who refused to shrink. A man who thought he held all the cards, suddenly exposed. And a company was forced to confront its reflection in the mirror. So the next time someone tries to write your story for you, remember Maria Romero. She didn't just protect her career. She shut down a department store. And in doing so, she reminded us all, justice isn't given, it's taken back. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this.